Well, let's bring in the founder and executive director of Invictus Africa, Buki Shonibare. Thanks for being on the news tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So this is an annual report from what we understand, and the Womanity Index this year paints a picture of the good and the bad. There seems to be progress in some areas and setbacks in other areas. So let's start with the bad news before we go to the good news. What did the findings this year reveal, and what was the most striking shortcoming for you?
I think one thing it revealed is the fact that even though we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibitions Act, we have the Child Rights Act, we have the Criminal Code Act, we have the Penal Code that is applicable in the North, a lot of Nigerians still do not know that these laws exist and how to utilize this law, or whether even these laws are being implemented. We talk about how a lot of times Nigerians have GBV-related laws, but the fact that it is not being implemented, data is showing that it is because many people do not know that these laws exist.
So the laws are not failing. It's implementation or awareness.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in one way or the other, we realize that even the Violence Against Persons Prohibitions Act, which was passed in 2015,
yes,
and we now have 35 out of the 36 states in Nigeria who have adopted the law. That law is still not being used. Now, the beauty of that law is that in Section 1, it provides a more robust definition of the offense of rape, such that recognizes that it is not only women who are sexually abused, and it is not only penile penetration that happens, and then you say that
a rape has
occurred. It could happen with an object and so many things. So one major thing that the data is also showing us is the fact that even though we talk a lot about sexual and gender-based violence, sexual assault, but Nigerians faced more of domestic and intimate partner violence. Over 70% of people who then face this experience it at home. The topmost place where people experience gender-based violence in Nigeria is actually in their home. And then we ask the question, when you are sexually abused or experience gender-based violence, where do you go? Where do you first go to seek help? Nigerians first resort to family and relatives. Now, that tells you that if you have family and relatives that you resort to, who will tell you that instead of taking this thing out, let's protect the name of the family. Oh, let's not go there so that we don't...
Let's not wash our dirty linen in public.
Exactly. What that does is that the offense of sexual violence is no longer treated as an offense. And so the law is not used to, make sure that people who perpetrate this offense, get justice. So that's one thing. And then finally, one key insight that we are getting from this is the fact that most people choose where to go and seek help on the basis of trust. Over 73% of people would decide to seek help when they have, and by help we don't mean just psychosocial support, even legal help, counseling and everything. They do that on the basis of the fact that they trust that this person or this entity can provide that. So, but I must say that beyond this national data that we do every year through Womanity Index, we also do it, regionally, so that we have data that shows what the reality is in relation to gender-based violence in the different regions and in each of the 36 states. Even though we found that 1 in 3 Nigerians, confirmed now by our national data, have experienced one form of gender-based violence or the other. So that means it's not just sexual. It could be mental, it could be psychological, it could be economic, it could be physical, in any way or the other. We realize that a lot of the states have different realities. In some states, it is 1 in 2. In some states, it is 1 in 4. So when we say 1 in 3 is a national data, but when you now begin to break it down, especially into the different forms of gender-based violence, the realities are different in each state, and which is what the Womanity Index does.
Wow. Okay, great. So I know we said we're going to start with the good news, but let me just highlight that your report does align with the latest United Nations report on femicide, which says the home, which is supposed to be the safest place, is actually not for a lot of women and girls. But let's talk about the indexes that you use to evaluate the states. And can we have a bit of good news? I know you did mention in that report by Georgina, some states are faring well, and more states have joined Lagos, which used to be. Tell us how they performed, what changed?
We use 5 indexes or 5 indices and 18 indicators for the Humanity Index every year. And what that means is that we look at laws and policies. First is are there laws? Some state passed laws, but they remove some of the key components of the VAP law. So it waters it down from the original intention of the 2015 VAP law. Are people aware of the law? Is law being used for conviction? Then we have access to legal justice. You know, things around witness protection. It is not enough for you to say that, yes, you can come and get justice. If somebody witnessed gender-based violence, would they be protected if they serve as witness? And then we look at conviction rate and all of that. Yeah. The third one is support services. Are there sufficient sexual assault referral centers in the state that is commensurate or proportionate to the population? So we expect that at least every state should have 1 sexual assault referral center in each local government area. Don't just say you have a SAC and it is to 20 million population. There are so many people who, and a lot of times those SACs are situated in the city center. It means people in rural communities are left out. So it's not just SAC, but so many others. But also, we also look at persons with disabilities. Do we streamline or adjust our support services to fit the intersecting realities of persons with disabilities? And then the fourth is information and awareness. It's a national orientation agency at the national and at the state level. Are they doing their job? A lot of information and awareness on GBV is done by NGOs. And a lot of times you realize that it's done on 16 days of activism like we have now. Yes. International Women Day. And finally, budget and spending. We look at the per capita spending. Some states have as low as 38 naira per individual in their state to cater to their responsibilities.
What's that supposed to do?
Every year, the highest we have only 2 states that went above 800 naira per year. So why I'm saying all of this is because the states that have done well, coming to your question, we found data shows that they are not just having laws, sufficient laws, but they are communicating it. Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency in Nigeria, DSV, headed by Titilola Vaivo Adeniyi, one thing you will do is that they take the message of gender-based violence everywhere. You know, leaders of cultures and faith, they take it to the market, they take it everywhere. That's good information and awareness. And then River State joined them this year, surprisingly, because we know that a lot of sexual and gender-based violence is happening there. But they have good things that they are also doing well. That a state is blue does not mean they are the best, that they are getting everything right. But it is relative to other states that they are performing well. And then finally Ekiti State, of course,
join them as well. So that's just 3 states out of 36 states and the FCT. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I can't let you go without you mentioning how you hope to sustain this as Invictus Africa, and what more can be done. When you talked about color coding, you mentioned blue states. Where can we find this report? Where can Nigerians find this report?
Very good question. invictusafrica.org/humanity index is what we have done this year. Is that the report is not just a PDF document. We've developed a dashboard for it, and it's an interactive dashboard where you can look at each state, each region, national, every data for 2023-2024 is on invictusafrica.org/humanity index. Now you ask the question of sustainability. The beauty about what Ford Foundation is doing for us for the initial 3 years is that it helps us to get even the methodology right. There were a lot of changes this year. We will still keep adjusting until we get it right. Ford is still supporting us, but we hope that with a lot of the gains that we are getting from this, we would have more funding coming from other organizations who will help us to sustain this. But of course, internally, we're also working on our own internally generating revenue to make sure that even if funding does not come from outside, we sustain it. One thing I can say is data work is an expensive work in Nigeria.
And data does not lie.
Data does not lie.
Well, thank you so much, Buki Shonibare. It does show that something is moving. I mean, from Lagos, we do have 3 states now. So somebody's hearing and somebody's doing something.
And only 5 red states this year.
Oh, wow.
A lot of green states this year.
Look at that. So go find that report and find out what exactly it is. Thank you so much, Buki, for being on the news tonight. We do appreciate what you do and for being here.